Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Wednesday in the Word. Hope you're having a great week so far. Hey, love to hear from you. If you have stories of how God's used you this week, an opportunity you've had to share with somebody, we always love to hear some of those accounts and how God is working and moving in people's lives. Love to have you share those with us. This morning I want to share a little bit of a passage of Scripture with you. I won't do this every time on Wednesday in the Word, but some of you know that one of my practices in my daily devotional is to read the proverb of the day. There are 31 proverbs, and so there is one for each day of the month, and obviously one left over on months that only have 30 days. But years ago, I started the habit of reading the proverb of the day. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't always do that now. I did it for years and years and years where I read the proverb of the day. I don't always do it now. I'll go back to that from time to time. One of the secrets, I think, for a consistent quiet time or devotional time with the Lord is to mix it up some, to put some different elements into it, to not get bogged down in the same routine so that it becomes the same routine, if you know what I mean. But today I did want to read, it is the 15th of November, and so I wanted to read part of the 15th proverb because there's a passage in there that I used a couple of weeks ago in a message on Sunday morning. I referred to it in my message and told a story about how when I learned this passage of Scripture, how I tried to apply it. And so I just wanted to share it with you again this morning. Proverbs 15, if you happen to be in a place where you can open a Bible, you can look at it or you can just listen along. There are 33 verses in Proverbs 15. I'm not going to read all that. I'm simply going to read maybe the first 5, 6, 7 verses to you and then just talk briefly about it. Proverbs 15 says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. The tongue of the wise makes knowledge acceptable, but the mouth of fools spouts folly. The eyes of the Lord are in every place, watching the evil and the good. A soothing tongue is a tree of life, but perversion in it crushes the spirit. A fool rejects his father's discipline, but he who regards reproof is prudent. Much wealth is in the house of the righteous, but trouble is in the income of the wicked. And the lips of the wise, verse 7, the lips of the wise spread knowledge, but the hearts of fools are not so." I'll stop there and just mention 2 or 3 observations in that. You know, one of the things about the Proverbs is that it can cover a variety of subjects. You'll find these repeating themes in Proverbs over and over again, but as you're reading them, oftentimes it'll seem like it's bouncing back and forth. It'll be bringing this contrast, and that was a form of Hebrew poetry to bring a contrast. But there are these themes that will repeat a lot, and clearly in Proverbs 15, at least in these first 7 verses, you can see that what we say is a theme of this part of Proverbs 15. There is, and that's just one of the things I want to remind you of this morning that we see in Proverbs 15. It's just the power of words. And I really want to encourage you to take that to heart today and think about it in the context of the words that you use and the conversations that you have on a day in and day out basis. In the story a couple of weeks ago in my sermon on Sunday that I mentioned about working at the post office and beginning to apply verse 1 about a gentle answer turning away wrath, and how I began to apply that as I worked the counter at the post office. These are it's just true. There's just power in words, and they can be used for good, and they can be used for harm and for hurt. And as a follower of Jesus Christ, we need to always measure our words. We need to respond in the Spirit when someone says something that hurts us or that we disagree with. We live in a time, in a political climate that so much rhetoric is out there, and whether it's on social media or on the news or whatever it is, at the water cooler, so to speak, but things are said and it can just really affect our lives, and people can begin to fire back, and this is true. Angry words bring forth angry words. That's just the way it is. And so remember, as a follower of Jesus, that we need to measure our words. We need to respond in kindness, whether we're talking about a conversation with our spouse or with our children, even when we have to discipline them. And it's hard, and none of us probably get this right all the time. I certainly did not when I was raising my children. But to remain in the Spirit and to respond to them with our words that are measured, that are biblically accurate, and that convey truth. It doesn't mean we don't discipline them, but there is a way to do that where anger is not in the equation. And really the only way to be successful at that is to be controlled by the Spirit. And that's what I mentioned in my sermon, I believe, as well, is that when the Spirit has control, He can help us to be convicted about, now, what am I about to say? Is this going to honor God, or is this not going to honor God? Is this going to help the person that I'm about to speak to, or is this going to hurt them? What's my objective in saying that? So I want to encourage you just to measure those words, because there's power in words. And then just the other thing I want to mention is just the fact that God hears our words. Now, the writer couches it in eyes and in seeing. He says, the eyes of the Lord are in every place, watching the evil and the good. That's certainly true of everything that goes on in our world. But in the context here of Proverbs 15 and this talking about words, we can certainly say that we need to always remember that God hears our words. Many times I've had to go back to God and apologize for what I said, or perhaps the way I said it to someone. You and I are far better off when we remember, hey, God hears what I say. God's involved in this conversation. When we recognize that He's with us in our daily activities, it will help us to speak more kindly, to seek to speak more of His wisdom and not just whatever we think or whatever comes to mind, to measure our words. There is power in words. God hears our words. And so today, as you go through your day and the rest of this week and the rest of your life, just always keep that in mind. Wow, God can be honored and glorified, or God can be dishonored through what I say. God hears what I say. God cares about what I say. We're looking forward to the services Sunday. That's the Sunday before Thanksgiving. We'll be observing the Lord's Supper, and that's a high and holy moment always for the church. Hope you can be there for that. But also as we dive back into 1 John chapter 5 in the adult worship, we'll be looking at the rest of that passage in 1 through 13 and its implications for our lives. Our children will be worshiping and having a great time as well. Hope you can be with us. Hope you can think of somebody that you can invite to come out and try and experience what cross culture is all about. Love you guys. Have a great rest of the week.